We have all heard of the work smarter, not harder concept, haven't we? But a new workplace term is going viral on social media, which encourages women to achieve an easier work-life balance. Coined the lazy girl job, content creators urge young women to quietly quit their jobs and do the bare minimum. Let's take a look.
Like a lazy girl job is like a job that does not require an intense amount of work. I feel like it's laid back.
And also there's a lot of jobs out there where you could make like 60 to 80K, so like pretty comfortable salaries and not do that much work and be remote.
So I have one of those lazy girl jobs. That's why I make videos while I'm sitting at Target waiting on my order in the middle of the day.
Work in 2 hours instead of 8 hours and you're on a salary, so you still get paid regardless, and then you can go do whatever you want. Called lazy girl jobs, not because we're being lazy.
Well, joining me now to discuss all of this, social list commentator and author Grace Blakely. Grace, I mean, when you're watching that, I personally find it a little bit aspirational, I'm not going to lie. I know I've got the kind of job a lot of people would kill for, but it's certainly not a lazy girl job. And when I saw those TikToks and see these girls sort of saying, basically take an admin job, get as much salary as you can, clock in as few hours as possible and just slope off home. I mean, I slightly support it.
Oh, totally. I completely support it. I mean, I've currently lost my voice slightly, as you can tell, from enjoying my life, because there is a lot more to life than just working. And I think we have this kind of attitude where, you know, we expect people to basically kind of suffer as a form of virtue, and that's like, you know, the best thing to do is to work as hard as possible and to not take time off. But actually, yeah, I think, you know, there is so much more to life than work, and these people are clearly enjoying their lives, as I have been, as you can hear.
Yeah, we can tell, we can hear from that. And you know, I say it's aspirational to have a lazy girl job, but of course I've worked my socks off to get right here. And I do also follow the economy and business quite closely, understand that, you know, we need jobs to turn the economy around. So I am being slightly trite. And on that, I want to bring in Shark Tank star and businessman Kevin OLeary. Kevin, the lazy girl job phenomenon. Haven't they just found a really smart way to hack the system?
You know, we've seen this movie before. It was called Quiet Quitting only 18 months ago, and it was multi-gender at that time. It wasn't just lazy girls, it was everybody. And the economy was coming through a worldwide pandemic, and new work models were emerging. And so we deal with this every day. I've got portfolio companies, 34 different companies. 40% of our employees have not returned to work, primarily in areas such as accounting, logistics, and compliance, and now social media support. We have virtually no one in that category that works out of an office. They work from all around the world. But here's the point I want to make. Whether you're a lazy girl or you're a quiet quitter, doesn't matter, because you either perform your task on a project basis. In other words, if you're releasing your quarterly financial statements next Thursday at 12 noon and you're the head of finance and you're working remotely from another country, nobody cares how you get it done or what time you do it in. It's just that, do you release the statements on time for compliance? And so the whole world is watching this happen, and so are young and old people, and saying, wait a second, for my job, I don't need to sit in a cubicle. I'm going to be a lazy girl. I'm going to be a quiet quitter, but I'm going to get my job done and I'm going to get paid. And so I'm paying plenty of people more than $80,000 a year, or euros in the case of my employees in Europe, or pounds, you know, or any of the European countries or Asian countries or Middle East countries that they work with us. And they're making lots of money, but they're getting it done on a project basis. So I wouldn't be too concerned about this. Now, if you're just lazy and you can't get anything done, I'm going to fire your ass, and I do that all the time.
Look, Grace, surely, I mean, that's fair. If someone's not performing their work and they're boasting about being lazy, they're filming TikToks at work about how lazy they are, don't they deserve to be fired?
Look, I don't actually disagree with a lot of what we've just heard, because as long as you are getting your tasks done on a project basis, that's what we should care about. We have a big problem actually in the economy of low productivity. So that's people often actually being employed for long periods of time and often not doing very much or not adding very much value because they were forced to sit in an office where, you know, they weren't necessarily contributing a lot. They were just sitting, you know, doing small tasks and trying to fill up the day. Whereas actually, as we move towards home working, where people perhaps have more control over their time, you get the combination of potentially higher productivity because they're doing more in less time and a better work-life balance, which means they're kind of happier, having, you know, a better time in general, less stress, and probably actually doing more when they are working.
And of course, everyone has lived through a pandemic and is living with the outcomes of this war that is currently still going on. So, Kevin, I mean, you talked about that hybrid work model we've arrived at. Does it give you empathy for the average worker, especially when we look at the younger generations, the Gen Zs and millennials? Do you adjust your kind of bossing, if you like, for younger generations?
Well, we accommodate, you know, and I'm dealing with all these CEOs, and we have this narrative every Tuesday. We talk to our companies saying, look, first of all, we're really surprised that 40% didn't return. We thought it would be 15. That was the first shockwave we dealt with. And now we have to deal with things like reducing our footprint in office spaces or retail outlets. So a lot of change going on in the economy. And yet one of the reasons you're seeing markets like the S&P 500 in the US, the largest market in the world, hit new highs is there's a tremendous amount of productivity enhancement using technology through remote work. And the other thing that changed, and this is what people are just starting to figure out, even giant companies like Nike, 50% of our sales now go direct to consumer, where the margins are much higher, and social media and the data about the consumer is far more valuable than ever before. So data is the new oil, and it's come through this new version of the global economy that I call digital version 2.0. And margins are much higher, profits are higher, cash flows are higher. So we can accommodate a lot of different work habits as long as they get the job done. When they do it, I couldn't give a beep, doesn't matter to me. And if they're doing it at 24-hour cycles somewhere in Asia, or we're talking to them in Dubai or in Abu Dhabi, we don't care. And what we've learned, and every other company's figured this out, this makes us far more competitive. I can hire the best talent regardless where they are. They could be in the Ukraine and be a great engineer. We don't care as long as they get it done. And I think this is very good for the globe. So yes, we have lots of fun on TikTok calling it lazy girl or quiet quitters. Nobody cares about that. It's how productive can you be? You'll make a lot of money working wherever you are, whenever you want, as long as you get it done.
And I think what's interesting about that as well is that even when you're not working, if you're on social media, you are actually producing value because you're producing data, you're producing things that can be kind of, you know, analyzed by social media companies about your habits online that can produce value. And I think that speaks to this wider trend of actually the line between life and work becoming less clear.
But not creating value for the boss that directly employs you. Look, Grace, before we run out of time, I also want to talk about the idea that this is lazy girl, because it just seems to be that it's girls that are making these videos for, you know, to entertain themselves. I don't think it's necessarily relegated just to girls. As Kevin said, it's quite quitting. But does this not hark to the idea that women are kind of taking ownership in the workplace? They sort of think, oh, I deserve a break at this point.
I think a lot of it is to do with the idea of branding yourself a lazy girl is potentially easier than a lazy guy, because there's lots of kind of stereotypes around masculinity which suggest you have to be going out there, working hard, producing for your family, kind of really suffering in order to basically survive and be a good man. So I think women, this is kind of like it's a bit of a joke really, isn't it? It's saying like, oh, well, we don't care so much about that sort of thing. We're actually not into the idea of suffering in order to create value for someone else. We believe that, you know, we are in control of our lives and want to be able to have fun, basically.
Kevin, is that fair? We can have lazy girls, but not lazy guys?
Girls just want to have fun. Everybody knows that. You know, I look at it and say most of my operating positions in my overall holding company are women. So they live their lives in this new arena the same way men do, except they're incredibly productive, which is why I hire them. You know, there's an old saying that I would bring up here. You want something done, give it to a busy mother. They're very good at juggling their day. And one of the reasons I support women entrepreneurs is so many of my companies are run by women, and my operating positions are women because they get it done whenever they have to. And these days, I don't care what time of the day that is.
Wonderful. Look, Kevin, Grace, thanks so much for joining us on the Lazy Girl debate.